Nicole Huntsman here from moderncosmic.com. We have got our sun sign compatibility here on this video. If you know what sun sign means, fast forward to the timestamp you see or the description of the video. So in Western astrology, we take the year, the 12 calendar months, okay, and we divide them up according to the Earth's relationship to the sun. And this makes sense if you think back in the day when we were farmers. The movement of the sun, it's actually our movement, the tilt of our Earth relative to the sun and how it affects the seasons was very important. Springtime, time to plant, summertime to take care of and tend the fields, and of course fall time to harvest, and then winter was time to preserve the things that you had stored and make them last till spring again. Now, in astrology, we look at these 4 important dates that are repeatable, they happen every year, and they are the spring equinox, the summer solstice, the fall equinox, and the winter solstice, okay? We have our zodiac signs all set up according to these solar events. In the springtime, when we have our spring equinox, March 21st, this is that time of year when the equator of the Earth is facing the sun, directly, and the Earth is level, so to speak. So, we are on an axis and the Earth tilts. At this point in the year, we're level. That's why you can spin an egg and it will spin. Now, that's the beginning of the zodiac year, and really should be the beginning of our year. It would make sense to have the time when we go from winter, where we have more darkness than light, to the time when it's equal. We have an equal amount of daylight and equal amount of darkness, and then we move into the time of the year, the spring, when we have more light and less darkness each day, okay, until we hit the summer solstice, where we have the most light, more light, and less of the darkness. So with the zodiac, your sun sign falls during a month between those 4 events. So your sun sign is going to fall into one of these segments, okay? We've got the 12 months divided up into 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, according to those solar events. And then in each of those sections, we have 3 zodiac signs, okay? Your sun sign is important in that it shows your general life force. If you think of the sun is the star in our solar system. It is the mass, the giant mass, relative to us anyway, that is holding our solar system together. Without the sun, without our star, we wouldn't be here, and if something happened to our sun, we would all die, we would perish. We eat food that's made from the energy of the sun. We are literally made of sun, which is pretty cool. Someone's sun sign shows you the basic premise upon which their personality is built. It's like a canvas that we're going to paint upon. It doesn't have any paint on it yet, it's just the canvas. Is it wood? Is it metal? Is it canvas? Is it a panel? Is it round? Is it square? How big is it? How little is it? The zodiac sign will sort of illuminate, and it will explain and make granular sort of this very basic part of what we have to work with, okay, with the personality. So it's the first step in building, when you're looking at an astrology birth chart, it's the first thing you look at because you're going to build upon it, all right? And then all the brushstrokes come with the moon and all the angular houses and the planets and the aspects between the planets. That's when it becomes a beautiful picture. But until then, it's just you're one of the 12 zodiac signs. This is very general. Sun signs are general. It's a general vibe. You've got someone who's kind of more of a feeler, someone who's more of a thinker. But there are all different types of feelers and there are all different types of thinkers, okay? We get that granularity by looking at the entire birth chart and by putting the 2 people together, okay? You can have a feeler and a thinker get together and be really happy if they've got other things in their birth chart that make nice compatibility interaspects. If for some reason your sun signs don't get along well, let's say we've got someone who is, let's say we've got a Capricorn and an Aquarius, very different energies. Capricorn's conservative, Aquarius is an iconoclast and does their own thing. On the surface, sun sign wise, these 2 aren't going to jive perfectly. But if you look underneath, maybe they have moons that are both in water, and it gives them an emotional warmth, or it gives them an emotional depth to the cooler Capricorn Aquarius facade. There's another thing you want to look at between your compatibility charts. There are several, but another important primary planetary aspect that you want to look at, or planetary placement, I should say, that you want to look at. And I'm going to talk about this at the end of the video, so stay tuned, watch the compatibility, and at the very end I'll explain to you how to find If your sun compatibility isn't great, there's another thing you can look at that will indicate whether or not the two of you are going to have long-lasting happiness together, or if it's going to be sort of a no-win battle, okay? All right, let's get on to our sun signs, and please leave me comments if you have questions, and this is going to be a lot of fun. Aries. Aries are our people born March 21st to April 19th. This is the first sign in the zodiac. These people are born during the time of the year when we're moving from the wintertime into the spring. So there's a vitality. There is an outgoing movement of energy, just like a plant would be blooming, a tulip would pop up through the soil. That's sort of the same thing that I see with an Aries. They're dynamic, they're outwardly focused, passionate, they need fuel, and they are fighters. Now, Aries also, these are the independent soldiers of the zodiac. They're our protagonists. They're the first person, the individual setting out on this journey of the zodiac. And as you move through the different zodiac signs, you'll see how this journey progresses. Self-starters like Aries, a lot of times they're perfectly comfortable going it alone. They're quite comfortable in leadership roles. They prefer to be in leadership roles. And so partnerships sometimes for Aries can be a little tricky. While they crave it, that's human nature to desire closeness and warmth and affection from other people. Aries sometimes don't always know how to go about getting it. They can be a little bit combative and a little what's the word, scratchy, in their relationships. But overall, these are brave, inspiring, self-starting, innovative, wonderful people that they just require a partner with some patience, and a partner who also is willing to be just as passionate and fiery as they are, but maybe perhaps a little bit more grounded. On the shadow side of Aries, we do have an individual who can be a little self-centered. They can be a little like the fool from the tarot deck, stepping off the cliff while the dog is barking. Don't go that way, They can sometimes be overly optimistic, or they can perhaps, instead of planning, they just want to jump into something and get going, and quite impulsive, okay? They can be a little difficult to teach at times. And they can sometimes lack the emotional tact that is required in love relationships and just general interpersonal relating. But if you have patience with an Aries, they are not the type to hold a grudge. They will usually kind of, they've let it out and then they're good after. So typically they're quite forgiving, and they have this childlike nature to them where it's almost a naivete and an innocence. They don't really mean anything by it. They just sometimes, like I said, they're not necessarily easy to teach, and so they have to kind of do things over and over again until they figure them out. Aries in love. These are individuals, right? They like to make the first move. Aries prefers being the one doing the chasing, at least initially. Even Aries females, with an Aries female, they can sometimes be accused of being too direct or too forward with men. In our culture, at least, I'm here in the United States, in Western culture, traditionally men were the ones who would take that lead role. So female Aries sometimes can be accused of being ball busters or bitches or too brave or too headstrong, or these things. And I say bowl to that. I think that Aries we need Aries men and women. These are the ones that are the brave, courageous individuals that will go for something. Now, in love, they need passion. They need passion, they need sex. They're a very physical sign, and they actually need fights, believe it or not. And when I say fights, I don't mean, out and out emotional drama, but they like a little bit of a little bit of a tension or friction in their relationships. They need that. If there was someone who doesn't really push back or lean back against them or was always pleasing them, they'll get annoyed and they'll get bored. And you don't want an annoyed, bored Aries, because you won't have them for long. They will be out of there, okay? Aries expectations in love. Because they're so passionate, they give the passionate spontaneously, freely, just whenever they want to. They're not the most dependable, they're going to do it when they want to do it, unless they have a lot of earth and other things in their chart. And even then, they kind of have to be the boss about when they're going to express their love. You can't really boss an Aries around. They can be this sort of childlike. They can be a little bit selfish, where they want all of their partner's love and attention, but they don't really have a problem with flirting or this kind of thing with other people, and nothing is meant by it. But they they need to have their freedom, but they also need to know that they are number one, that there's no one else in their partner's life. Aries' biggest fear, and this goes for all the zodiac signs, you look at their strength, and that's always tells you where their biggest fear is. With an Aries, you do have a bold, brave, enterprising individual, okay? But on the inside, they're like a little kid. The reason they're bold and brave is because it just doesn't occur to them that there's going to be an issue with them just striking it out and doing their thing and saying what they think. And, you know, they haven't, it's almost like their soul hasn't had enough experience, it hasn't been battered around enough to have sort of learned this lesson. So their biggest fear is actually they're quite vulnerable on the inside. This is like a little kid on the inside, and really what they really want is love, affection, warmth, and belonging. And I suppose it's what most of us want, but because Aries puts on this whole facade of being brave and independent, not needing anyone, you sort of just assume they really are not needing anyone, but that's actually quite incorrect. So anyone who can recognize the innocence in an Aries and can give them their space to be themselves, but also that needs them. The person that is emotionally brave enough to say to an Aries, I need your bravery and courage to keep me safe, to protect me. That is a way to tap into the part of the Aries that, yes, the part that's vulnerable, but they can project that onto you. It's a way for them to protect in an indirect way their own inner vulnerabilities, okay? So it's a little trick. All right, so on to the compatibility. Aries and Aries. Here you've got two fiery, strong, passionate people coming together. This can be a relationship that hopefully the female in the group, or at least the person who sort of takes on the feminine side of the coupling, has some soft aspects in the chart, because this can be one where there's a lot of fighting and a lot of aggressiveness or assertiveness between the two people, which for two Aries can be just fine, you know, as long as they both are enjoying the competitive spirit of this coupling, then it can be a nice combination. It is one where it could be a little too hot, a little too much fighting. The female, actually, if the female, you know, is the Aries, and she may be a little bit too masculine for that Aries male. A lot of times the Aries male is actually looking for sort of the damsel in distress or the princess, because ultimately Aries is actually, they sort of see themselves as knights in shining armor many times, and they have this sort of idealized picture of what romantic love is, or this sort of naive picture of romantic love, and so they appreciate the idealized feminine, the female, the woman that they can't get to, you know, or that's trapped in her castle, that's weak and needs his help. An Aries woman is far from weak, so sometimes the Aries man might feel, if he's a less mature Aries man, he may feel like he doesn't have a job to perform in the relationship, and he can feel a little bit overpowered by that Aries female. These two, though, you know, the long-term interaction between these two could be hot and fiery and passionate, and as long as you've got, again, two that are relatively mature Aries individuals, and they can make this work. But yeah, others will see this as a coupling where these two people are they fighting? Are they, what's going on with those two, you know? Oh, that's just Bob and Susie. That's how they talk to one another, you know? But overall, it's a fiery, passionate relationship.